Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
December 21, 2020, the Exiles in Tech edition. And we begin with a story from the New York Times, which basically posits that the antitrust case against big tech was largely shaped by tech industry exiles. And the most famous is Dina Srinivasan, who wrote the Law Review article, which framed the Google harm against consumers as extracting more impersonal data for using its free services. In another paper, she argued that Google's monopoly in advertising tech allowed for some types of self-dealing and insider trading that would be illegal on Wall Street. Both her arguments reframe the antitrust thinking about companies, and her timing was extremely propitious. So it's interesting that she's not legally trained, she's not a lawyer. So someone from outside the legal space, but someone who did have experience in tech, was able to reframe the antitrust issues for a modern day. Next up, from the Washington Post, Stephen Pearlstein posits that the cases against Facebook and Google are our last chance to save the economy from monopolization. The antitrust lawsuits are belated recognitions that U.S. courts and most particularly U.S. regulators have failed to prevent dangerous concentrations in the economy's fastest growing sector. I don't suppose that's really a surprise given it was essentially new industries, although tech's been around sort of forever, ever since the first bone was used as a weapon. Nevertheless, he posits that if we don't have these cases, these companies would now literally trillion-dollar valuations could overtake the U.S. economy and become more powerful than in many ways than the government, although it's hard to discount that any company would be more powerful than the idiot Trump administration. Next up, from the Wall Street Journal, how overloaded employees can cut out of the busy work. Staffers working remotely during the COVID pandemics are getting their bosses belated blessings to jettison routine tasks that are a waste of time. If you've ever been in Cube World, you know that is a calling card of many middle managers is assigning wasted time on wasted tasks, and it's so that they can keep their jobs when they're really not bringing any value. So with the pandemic, though, there's been obviously added hours for caring for children, parents, or other outside work that may leave employees susceptible to burnout. So many senior managers are now really allowing employees to focus on what are the important tasks they need to do. And for the compliance professional, it really lends itself to how you need to think about your compliance program in the age of coronavirus. And along those lines, we take things in a little bit different direction with our final piece from AdAge, which is 5 retail marketing trends that could outlive the pandemic. And I found these really interesting for the compliance professional. So I've adapted them to the compliance professional. I hope you'll take a look at them and think about how you could use some of these concepts in your compliance program going forward.
The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.